Hello,
Good morning. I'm Jen,
I'm Kimberly, and this is
and
That
this is
Vegan
that
Morning
Vegan
Show.
Morning Show. We have a special guest with us today, Dr. Marina De Leon, and we're going to introduce her in a moment. But first, we have to talk about our weekends. So, Kimberly, how was your weekend?
I wonder if my weekend was very similar to yours.
Probably was because
My
we were both,
weekend was fantastic.
so was mine. A little tiring, but it was amazing. We were taking a vegan lifestyle coach and educator certification program that's going to make us even more amazing.
That's right. Yeah. It's run through Victoria Moran and her Main Street Vegan company, line, whatever you call
Brand.
it. Yeah. And brand, that's the word. And like I love Victoria, and to have the opportunity to go through this program that she created is just amazing, and I feel so lucky to be able to do it. And somehow it worked out where she's talking about how all of us are coming to it where we have experience. We're all already out in the world doing vegan things, and I guess she hasn't had a cohort like that where everyone is already kind of established in their thing, and that is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I'm so glad that you introduced me to Victoria's world. And it's just been an incredible experience. I'm not sure how I'm going to get through the whole day, but it was the
Yeah,
best experience ever.
I
And I'm
could
just
not
excited
sleep
to
last
do this
night.
with you. Um, Rena, how was your weekend?
My weekend was amazing. Basically, just had a bunch of meetings. I live on the island of Puerto Rico, and we're really trying hard to stop a highway from being built in this very undeveloped area. And so we're working hard with the Surfrider Foundation and Paseo Responsable, like organizational groups that are, trying to fight against the government to, inhibit a little bit of development. And I had some really good leads this weekend, so I'm feeling productive as well.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah,
So
that sounds like such important work. And I think sometimes people feel like, what's the point in doing something? But you have to just do it, right? If nobody does these things, gets the word out, does the fighting that's needed, stands up for things that are important, then nothing will change. So it's always important, I feel like, to try. And so that's really great.
Oh yeah, and there are successes like of
Yeah.
some organizations that actually make a big impact on governments or larger corporations that try to, come in and implement their own kind of, greedy or capitalistic practices. Like there are examples of community and small people who fight against that and then actually win. In fact, I was talking with a man yesterday from the Surfrider Foundation who said that he's been on the island about 50 years, and many decades ago in our town, they tried to put a coal burning factory like in the town, which
Oh,
is
wow.
so polluting for the air and for everybody who lives here, and they stopped it. Like he was able, with the rest of the community to actually prevent it from going through. I'm like, that's a great success. Like hopefully we can do that again.
That's huge. That's really huge. Well, yeah, and you're right. And people have been successful with these types of things. So that sounds really, really amazing and impactful.
I'm actually curious to know a little bit more about the mentoring program in terms of, are you paired with like a vegan mentee who wants to, or somebody who's trying to be vegan?
No, so the program is really to set you up to be able to do that on your own. So we're all technically in training, even though we are a little more advanced than the typical student going through that. Um, but uh, but the also the networking that happens within these groups is significant, and I did talk to a bunch of people who've gone through the program from previous cohorts, and they have all, like, I talked to them all separately, and they all said the same thing, that, you know, the education was incredible. Victoria gets amazing people coming in to speak and teach and lead different sections of it, but it also was life-changing in the connections they've made, because it truly is one of those things where once you become part of this group, like, everybody is like, how can I help you? Let me, you know, share your stuff. Let me, you know, build you up. And so it was kind of the combo of both of those things. Jen and I were like, we have areas we really want to deepen our knowledge, but the networking capability within this group was so important to both of us. So that, I think eventually Jen and I will be those people who will find mentees and help them grow and change in that way. But right now it's very like education led.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Cool, right?
Good for her.
Yeah, it's really, really great. We can send you the information later if you want to check out what it's all about. And she has a podcast and just a lot of amazing, amazing resources and support for people. She wants us to do the work of spreading veganism and sharing that knowledge with everyone. So she's created an amazing hub to help us spread that work and, you know, spread that knowledge, because we all touch people differently. We all have strengths and ways to connect with people in our sphere. And, you know, it's just, yeah, such an amazing community. But yeah, well, you're an amazing person. We're very excited to have you here. I've had you on The Confident Vegan 3 times for 2 interviews, and we've cooked together, which, by the way, Marina, I want to do cooking over the holidays and do videos on that. So if you want to join me for that, we could talk about that later. Have you cook holiday food with me?
Okay, we have to do that. I've been brewing in my mind a molasses cookie recipe that I really need to try out. So maybe we can, because molasses is so high in iron. So I'm like, I need
yes,
to be out there.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay, we'll definitely talk about that after, because I would love to have you help teach us how to make cookies that are also good for us with iron. Sounds good to me. All right, I'm going to read your intro the best I can without getting tongue-tied here. So Dr. Marina De Leon does 2 things well: wildlife conservation and holistic nutrition. Her work bridges disease ecology, molecular biology, and microbiome research to address environmental and ecological challenges. With a PhD in microbiology from UC Davis, Marina specializes in herpetology, focusing on herpetology. Sorry, it's like 7 a.m. here. Focusing on disease ecology, toxin-producing microbes, and conservation strategies for endangered species. In addition to her work in conservation biology, Marina runs a private nutrition consulting practice focusing on gut microbiome health. Drawing from her deep expertise in microbiology, she helps clients understand and optimize their gut health through personalized, evidence-based nutrition plans. Marina's holistic, plant-based approach emphasizes the necessity of a diverse and resilient microbiome in both environmental and human health, grounded in her understanding that the well-being begins at the microbial level.
Wow, a lot of unique words in there, I realized.
Yeah, but you know what? It's all important and amazing. And I'm proud of myself for being able to read that at 7:09 in the morning after doing a long weekend of training. So.
I'm very proud of you. Very.
So, Marina, thank you for joining us. You know, yes, you have an amazing background of experience. And so the number one question we want to ask you is, why is our microbiome important? Right? People hear about gut health all the time. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. So why is it important to understand the microbiome?
Okay, that's such a great question. And I can answer this question for hours, to be honest. So I'm going to try to be a little bit concise. But, you know, the gut microbiome and microbiomes in general, also environmental microbiomes and other microbiomes that we have, you know, associated with the human body, like our skin microbiome, vaginal microbiomes, oral microbiomes, these are all kind of coming to light recently as very important aspects of our health and of environmental health and animal health. And they're really becoming popular, right? Like we're just scraping the surface of how important the microbes associated with our lives and our cells contribute to our health or disease. So what we've realized, I think, as scientists and as doctors, is that there's so much information. Our microbes do so much for us. Do we know everything that they do for us? No, it's very difficult because there's so many factors involved with the types of bacteria, protists, viruses, and their individual communities within or on us that interact with different types of cells in our body, like our gut lining or our organs or our, you know, even our blood and our brain, right? Like these organisms, there are many different types, there are many different variations of these communities, and then they're interacting with many different systems in our bodies. And that all leads to just a huge web of different types of interactions. So what we know for sure are that these are, like our gut bacteria, for example, hugely impact our health. How exactly? Well, there's a lot of room for understanding more because there's just so many factors, so many types of bacteria, all of this. So what I'd like to start with is that we do not know everything. We are so far, like in a pot of, I don't know, 100% of knowledge of our microbiomes, we're at like 1%. I'm making that up, but you know, like there's a ton of gut microbiome information and we're still like not even understanding the vast majority yet. So that's really interesting. I'd love to live a long time in order to like get to that point where we really understand how exactly our microbiomes influence us and our cells and our, you know, cellular reproduction and our cellular health, but we're not there yet. But what we do know is that our gut microbiome, and I'll focus on our gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome is very malleable, so it's hugely influenced by the environment. And the environment in this case is basically what we eat, what we consume, and what we do with our bodies, like our exercise and our movement. It can also be influenced by the types of hormones that our guts interact with, like when we produce our own hormones, like stress hormones, like cortisols, like bacteria can be influenced by those as well. So we are influenced by our bacteria and our bacteria are influenced by us. It's very, very much a symbiotic relationship. And what I find interesting is how exploitable our gut microbiomes are. So because we influence our bacteria, we have immense power as to build what types of communities are going to work for us. And we do have some knowledge on that. So some bacteria produce for us vitamins that we really need, like vitamin B12. Some bacteria produce precursors to neurotransmitters. So they produce molecules that help us build dopamine and serotonin, neurotransmitters that feel good. They influence, our gut bacteria can influence the hormones that we produce, like our hormones that help us feel full and satiated or hungry. So they can influence our hunger cues and our fullness cues. I mean, that's a big deal, right? That's not solely up to us. We think, oh, I'm hungry, like what's wrong with me? I just ate or something like that. But no, if you're like feeding certain types of bacteria, you're actually influencing them to help produce those signals. Or if you know, if you try to cultivate other bacteria, they can help with balancing those cues for us, right? So there's a lot of ways in which we can influence our bacteria to work for us. And there's a lot of things that our bacteria can do for us. And so now your question is like, how, essentially, right? So now I'd like to shift into a little bit on marketing first before I go into how. So there are a lot of studies on individual strains and species of bacteria that humans have in our guts and which ones produce good chemicals for us, ones that help us with our gut lining. They help produce biofilms that are very helpful for our gut lining. And there's bacteria that live within us that produce toxins, right, that actually are toxic for us. And then there's ones that kind of don't do anything, but they take up space. And a lot of companies try to influence us and put a lot of weight on certain species of bacteria that say, oh, this bacteria is going to help you lose weight, or this bacterium is going to help you with some other issues, right? And I'd like to say these are both true and untrue. Okay, so like I said, we know a lot about how the microbiome works, and we do know a lot about, we do these studies on individual bacteria and we find out certain things, that they produce really good chemicals or really bad chemicals, or they interact with our bodies in certain ways, and that's good. But in reality, how individual strains or communities work within us is very complex. So we can't always believe that one strain or one species of bacteria is going to do the things that a company or marketing says it will. That's very, very important, because there are just so many factors. I mean, there's thousands of factors that influence whether that one species or strain of bacteria is going to do the thing in our bodies specifically. So what we need to focus on is not taking an individual probiotic or focusing on an individual strain that has been shown in one study to do something good for us. What we need to think about is blanket cultivating a healthy gut microbiome in general. And it's kind of like just hoping for the best. That's really like the best that we can do. And so now you're wondering, okay, but how do we do that? Well, I really like this new study that just came out in Nature Microbiology. It's published at open access in January 2025, so it's brand new. The article title is Gut Microbiome Signatures of Vegan, Vegetarian, and Omnivore Diets Associated Health Outcomes Across 21,561 Individuals. So it's a meta-analysis study by Gloria Fackelman and colleagues. And this study is awesome because it basically showed that different types of people on different diets, vegan, vegetarian, and omnivores, were able to influence their gut microbiomes in different ways just by what they eat. And they found that people who are omnivorous and who eat more meat have more pro-inflammatory, cardiovascular health risk bacteria, so bacteria that kind of promote more inflammation and more risks associated with cardiovascular health than vegan and vegetarian people. And what's interesting about the vegan people is that vegan people had a lot more soil associated microbes, dirt associated microbes, which I thought was really interesting, because those microbes can be very healthy and produce a lot of anti-inflammatory products for us. So I really encourage everyone to read that article if possible. And so that was just a good example of how what we eat definitely affects our gut microbiome, and it's the most important factor in affecting our gut microbiome, and it's the most control we have. More control than taking a probiotic is consistent eating that helps to cultivate bacteria that we want. And what we want is basically soil associated microbes. We want dirt microbes inside of us. Like, that's the bottom line.
How do we get those Is it like leafy greens? Is it vegetables? Is it the combo of all of kind of the traditional vegan eaten foods?
Yeah, and even omnivores need to follow this recommendation as well. We need to eat dirty food. That's really the bottom line. When we eat like carrots from our own garden and you like wipe it off on your sleeve and you just eat it, you're eating so like thousands and thousands of soil bacteria in it, stuck to that carrot. And omnivores can do that too, right? Like they're not exempt from from eating like that. And that is really the best way we can eat. So we do have to be careful. A lot of grocery store produce, we have to wash it. It goes through many hands and many systems of production and transport. So we do have to be careful. But if we can, get to those local farmers markets and eat or grow our own plants, even on our balcony, right? If we can just grow a couple of tomatoes or a couple of carrots on our balcony or inside our apartments, that can have a really lasting impact as well. Because it's not about just doing one thing, like only eating like a raw food diet from the plants you forage outside because you're a jungle, person. We don't have to live that way, but we do really have to try to incorporate those raw dirt microbes into our bodies somehow.
Yeah. I mention this on the show every chance I get, but I live near Ethos Farm in Long Valley, New Jersey, which is run by Dr. Ron Weiss, and his entire focus, he has his medical practice on the farm as well, but his entire focus from the farm perspective has been like the soil becoming the most nutrient dense soil possible. And he completely transformed. He has a degree in like botany as well. So he like completely transformed this farm from like dead soil to this fluffy, nutrient dense soil. And every vegetable we get from there, I think they do like a quick rinse before they put it out for the farm, for the market. But it is that the carrots, you can see that they're still like dirty. And so we just eat them that way. And the lettuce, we know has like little bits in there. And so we'll just eat that. And he says like, just wipe it off. You don't have to wash this. And you're getting all of those little bacteria from the soil. So like, if you live near a place that grows their food like that, or like you said, if you can grow it yourself, like what a difference. And I know I feel different and the food tastes different. It's so much better. Like I haven't had a carrot that has tasted anything like a carrot from Ethos. The stuff at the store just does not compare.
I know. Yeah, I mean, the flavor is a completely different subject altogether, but it's so incredible. Like the flavors of food produced well is just so different. And it's a different subject, but it's also really important. A lot of people grow up on like canned vegetables or something, or like frozen vegetables, or vegetables that are just incorporated into a frozen meal or something, like peas. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't like vegetables, but they've never really had the honor and the privilege of eating vegetables like what you just described. It's a different experience altogether.
Yeah.
Ethos Farms, I just have to add, because I've been there twice with Kimberly, that's the most beautiful produce I've ever seen. I'm always like snapping pictures of it.
Just like colored green. You're like, look, everyone.
Yeah, it's like everything's just so vibrant. And I bought beets from there one time, and they were the best beets I've ever had, ever. I love beets, and these beets were like the best beets.
Oh, okay. Not to get off track, but speaking of beets, I made beet brownies that I have to also tell you guys about in the future, maybe during our holiday.
No, tell us now.
Okay, well, yeah, good idea. Essentially, what was it? I wanted to make. Long story short, I found a recipe online. You bake the beets in foil so that all of the water is retained. Blend it in the blender with soy milk, and then just add it to a brownie recipe. I swear to God. good. And I wish that I could credit the person online whose recipe I just randomly found when I Googled like beet brownies, because everything's online. So if I have an idea, I'm like, well, I know I'm not the first one to have it. So I'm like, I want to make beet brownies. Somebody else, how did they do it? So I just Googled it, and then the recipe was perfect. And they're like, nobody could taste that they have beets inside.
I'm going to be looking at beet brownies later.
I once made black bean brownies from Dr. Will Bolshevitz from his fiber-fueled cookbook. And they were spicy. I think they called it like spicy Mexican-inspired, like hot chocolate brownies. And it was black beans, and I did my spices were very potent, so they wound up being super spicy brownies. But you couldn't taste the black beans at all, and they were really dense. Like they felt like a junk food brownie. Oh, it was so good.
That sounds amazing. Wow. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of sneaking nutrients into junk food.
Oh, it's like my favorite thing to do. I find it's kind of like evil, like good evil, like ha 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 ha, you're eating beets.
Right.
But it just goes to show, right, with some creativity, we can still eat the things we love and just take better care of our body, right? Because we can have the same textures, the same flavors, and spices are really healthy for us. And with some simple swaps, we can still enjoy the things we love, but have it contain ingredients that fuel our body in a much better way, right? Taking care of our microbiome, as you were saying. I want to ask you a little bit about inflammation, because that's something that gets tossed around all over the place. So can you share a little bit more about what inflammation is and why we should be mindful of it?
Sure. Well, let's see. Inflammation is basically just our cells trying to heal our own cells. That's pretty much it. And there's a lot of like different types of aggravation that can happen. For example, I'll talk about the gut lining. So our intestinal lining is a very important type of cells, right? Like they need to be permeable, because the food that goes in gets digested, and then the small molecules that are digested, the sugars, the fats, the proteins, and then the nutrients, have to basically through passive movement go through our gut lining into our bloodstream, like through our capillaries, right? And then from there, the nutrients travel through our bodies. So there's a lot of ways which we can aggravate our gut lining. And those cells can become inflamed. And inflammation is really good. It's basically just sending like helpful cells to try to heal the cells that are injured, which is an important thing. But if you're assaulting your gut lining through a lot of different things, through foods that you shouldn't be eating, or not enough water, or eating foods that help to cultivate gut bacteria that are producing toxins or that aren't that good for us, or there's an overgrowth of bad bacteria, that's going to be damaging the gut lining, and that inhibits the permeability, or it makes the permeability like too much, too permeable, so we have large molecules going into our bloodstream, right? Or so inflammation in the gut lining is basically when you have damage and then other cells trying to heal that damage. That's what inflammation is, and that can happen anywhere in the body. So what we need is to not damage those cells in any way. And then sometimes the body can also, depending on the human body is so complex, but sometimes inflammation can be promoted. So those immune cells that are there to help can kind of come to areas in larger abundance than is even necessary. And then that is also not good either. And like those signals can be messed up for a number of different reasons. So what we want is to not damage ourselves in the first place, but we also want our immune systems to not be overactive and flooding areas, especially in our gut lining, that aren't necessary, that either inhibit permeability or cause so much damage that there's more permeability than is necessary. We want balance. And back, everything, the internet is all about extremes, right? Like, to eat, to have this perfect health, you have to do these extreme things. And that's not true. Perfect health is all about balance. You don't want anything in too much abundance or anything in, not enough. So what we need to do is cultivate, bacteria that produce biofilms that help to heal and soothe and create that balance of permeability in our gut lining. And without them, so we actually need those bacterial biofilms lining our gut. We have mucosa in our guts that really help to balance that permeability of what goes through, but we need these bacterial biofilms. And some biofilms from bacteria that don't help us are going to be bad, right? They're going to they're going to have basically be a breeding ground for like toxins and other bacteria that don't do good things. But some biofilms are really good, and they help create and mimic that gut lining for us. And when we have a good gut mucosa and a good bacterial biofilm, we won't have that inflammation, right? We won't be assaulting our gut lining so much that our immune cells need to come in and try to alleviate that injury. So inflammation is just our own bodies trying to alleviate injury, and it can happen in two ways. One, necessarily because we've assaulted ourselves in some way, or two, unnecessarily because those signaling pathways are overactive and there's too much signaling for these inflammatory cells to be active. That's pretty much what that is. So we want balance.
So that's where like chronic inflammation is, that where their receptors are just like going off when they don't need to.
Exactly. And they may need to as well, because with chronic inflammation, there's often chronic injury as well, chronic cellular harm as well.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit on Did You Bring the Hummus when you were on with me, but people will say to like people like us, because we're trying to help people eat differently, change their lifestyles, but I can't eat vegetables. It upsets my stomach. It's really hard for me to eat lettuce or greens, onions, whatever. And you had mentioned something about when all you're eating is white bread, let's say, like your gut has these microbes to digest white bread, which might not be the same microbes that are digesting like leafy greens. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is humans, I've noticed in my practice, humans really want like simple black and white answers, and it just doesn't. The human body is very complex. The complexity is incredible. It's what makes it interesting to me. So there's a couple of ways to think about this. One is exactly what you just said. Like, if you're not equipped to eat certain healthy foods, you can't do it, right? Like, if you can't eat beans because they give you gas, it's partially, one important factor is probably that you don't have the gut microbiome that's capable of digesting those beans for you, or the lettuce. You either don't have those good microbes, or you could have an overgrowth of bad microbes that are taking up too much space and doing other things that don't help you with that digestion. In any case, you don't have the gut microbes to help you with that digestion, because our own personal digestion is very limited. Like, we do have digestive capabilities for fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. We have amylase in our saliva that helps us digest carbohydrates. We have hydrochloric acid in our stomachs that helps us digest proteins. And we have bile secreted into our small intestines that help us digest fats. That's pretty much like the limitation of our digestive capabilities. Everything else is done by our gut microbes. And when we don't have those, you're right, it's really hard to eat like healthy food, whatever that food may be. So there's a couple of things that some people have to do. If a person has an actual disease or disorder or imbalance like SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or something like that, you have to address that bacterial dysbiosis. It must be addressed. If somebody doesn't have that type of disorder and they just lack the good microbes to digest that, then you have to just incorporate small amounts of those foods. So we're talking about two different things. A person with gut dysbiosis, in any way, bacteria that are not helpful or harmful, that has to be addressed. You have to basically eliminate those bacteria before you can just introduce like healthy foods, because that will cause a lot of problems. But somebody whose gut microbiome is, pretty good, no overgrowth of bad bacteria, they just don't have that digestive capability because there aren't enough good bacteria. Really, the key to that is just slow incorporation of those foods. And I'm talking slow. Like if somebody can't digest beans, but beans are such an important part of a healthy diet. I mean, and a diet that gives us longevity and sustains us for many years. You have to start with such a small amount, like a tablespoon of some sort of bean that you personally can digest per day. So some people do better with black beans. Some people do better with lentils. Some people do better with kidney beans. It depends on kind of what their history is. So what I always suggest to my clients is finding that one bean that's like, okay, it's not as bad as, another bean that just gives them complete gas, and start with a tablespoon. I mean, it's painstaking and it takes some responsibility, it takes consistency, and it takes awareness. But these are the practices that really help. You start with a tablespoon of whatever bean per day and work up over a couple of years. A couple of years sounds like a lot of time. It's not a lot of time when we're talking about your lifetime. We're not, when we're talking about the next 40 years of your life, working towards being able to eat these foods for a couple of years is not a long time. And it's a really important part of your health journey. So if somebody can't eat vegetables, lettuce gives them problems, you really do need to eat a little bit at a time and start feeding those and cultivating those microbes that can digest lettuce. But you don't have them. Like you probably have a couple. So you need to take those couple that you have. It's like investing. It's actually exactly like investing. You need to take the little bit of bacteria that you have, invest in giving them a little bit of lettuce so that they can reproduce, and then you have double that amount, right? And then you give them maybe double the lettuce, and then that doubles.
That's really, it's very interesting how you said, right? Because people have this, it's kind of like taking medicine, but better for you, right? Like, some people have to take medicines for a lifetime, and with adjustments to diet, there are people who've been able to reverse having to be on medications eventually by eating whole food, plant-based, and right. And it's focusing on new lifestyle changes where, like you were saying, in the grand scheme of things, 2 years isn't really that long. It's just like it's your fuel. It's like you're giving medicine to your body, but you're using food as that medicine to help expedite that healing process.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't know. People can do it for money, right? They can invest in their Roth IRA every year, hoping that in the future when they're 65, 70, they can use that money. But like we need to do that with our food as well. We really need to do that with our food. I mean, I can't stress that enough.
That's a really great comparison. I'm sorry, Jen.
Oh, no, that's
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying that's a really great comparison, and I think one that a lot of people can understand and make it feel less like, oh my God, 2 years of a tablespoon of beans or 2 tablespoons of beans. But yeah, when you look at it that way and you're giving yourself back your life, essentially, yeah, 2 years is nothing.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is that people don't think that a tablespoon of beans, that's an extreme case too, of somebody who just like really cannot digest something. They don't think that that's going to do anything. I think that's the major problem. They're like, what's that going to do? There's no immediate effects. But people also have that same mentality for unhealthy food as well, right? Like we are inundated with ultra processed food that really doesn't kill us or cause us immediate disease or injury. And I'm just going to throw out, I don't know, some sort of process like Doritos or something, right? They can sell us Doritos because when we eat them, it doesn't like kill us, right? You don't drop dead, or you don't even, in a lot of cases, you don't even really feel it. But so it's kind of like microdosing chemicals. They're like, it doesn't hurt anybody because look, there's no acute immediate effects. But then if you look at what happens to somebody who eats ultra processed foods for many years, or even starts as a child and then a decade later, there's clear negative effects to eating an abundance of ultra processed foods, right? Like it can't be, it's undeniable. It's absolutely undeniable. But those foods are allowed to go unregulated and be in our markets and our grocery stores only because it cannot be proven that if you eat a couple of Doritos, you get cancer or heart disease or diabetes later. But it can be proven that if you eat an amalgam of these processed foods, yes, those definitely cause diabetes later. But it's the same with healthy food. Sure, if you eat a couple of them in the beginning, you're not going to see immediate effects, but you definitely do over time. It's time in the market, not timing the market.
Yeah, and it's the more and when you do things gradually, it's sustainable, right? And you brought up a good example, right? The negative habits become sustainable, right? And positive habits become sustainable. So it's all in what you invest your time in most of the time and how that's going to then impact your body.
Yeah, taking those first steps, just doing it, is probably like you were saying earlier, like when we're starting a business, like taking the first steps is the hardest. But once these things come habits, it's so easy. It is just so easy once you have a habit of doing healthy things. And that's the goal. You don't want to always be thinking about trying to eat healthier. That's stressful. But when eating healthy is just your lifestyle, you don't even think about it. You work towards being like productive and happy in other ways. And it's just like, it's not a thing.
Yeah. Well, Marina, I could talk to you forever. I always enjoy talking to you. And, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you about your newsletter, because you have a newsletter that you send out that's very informative. So anyone watching wants to get more wisdom and insight from Dr. Marina on nutrition. Can you share a little bit more about that and where they can sign up?
Yeah, no problem. So thanks for asking. So I have this really fun newsletter. It's a once a month newsletter, and I get really good feedback on it. It is so low level. It's literally an email, because I don't do anything fancy ever. But people have been giving me a lot of good feedback. It's basically my nutrition journal. So once a month, I decide I want to rant about something, and then all of my email subscribers I guess you don't have to open the email, but if you decide to open the email, you get to hear a rant of mine. And I get surprisingly like really good feedback on it, which makes me laugh every time I receive a response to one of my like rant emails. They're free. So anybody can sign up, and then you can also unsubscribe if you want to. But if you go to my website, microbialfuturenutrition.com, you'll see at the bottom it says like subscribe to my email, and then I'll receive a notification, and then I'll just add you to my email list, and you'll receive my once a month rants on whatever I decide that I feel like I'm annoyed with or something like that. And I need to set straight.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I've signed up. I've read some of them, and sometimes I have trouble keeping up reading everything. But yeah, your newsletter is great, and definitely recommend that. And yeah, you have been on Kimberly's Did You Bring the Hummus? And you've been on The Confident Vegan. So I highly recommend viewers to go check that out as well, because there's a lot of great information in all of those discussions. Yeah, is there anything else that you would like viewers to know before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, just, I am a nutritionist. So if, you are a person with gut microbiome problems or just want to be healthier, like I have a wealth of resources at this point. I have a lot of PDFs that I've written on UTIs or alcohol. Like I have a lot of resources that I can just send people as well. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here. I love talking about how bacteria affect our brains, how bacteria affect our hunger cues, how bacteria affect everything about us. So yeah, just reach out. I'm around.
Great. Was there anything that you wanted to ask Dr. Marino, Kimberly, before we wrap up?
No. Although maybe we could like make this a regular thing. Like obviously we can talk about this after, but you come back and like drop more knowledge on us.
That would be fun. Would I get a background like you guys have?
Yeah.
We can send you one.
Because other than the sun wouldn't come in the morning. I can't.
I know. It was fine before, and then it shifted.
It's getting hot really fast.
Oh no, we will send you a background. But yeah, it would be great to have you come back to, and maybe viewers could send us nutrition questions. And yeah, it would be great to have you come back for sure.
Yeah, I would love that. Let's talk about it.
Kimberly, is there anything going on with Did You Bring the Hummus that you want the world to know about?
So there is no new podcast this week. Oops, Kimberly did not plan well, but I have 117 other episodes. So please check out Dr. Marina's episode and all of the others that you have time for. Just poke around and listen to some good stuff. I get to talk to incredible people, and you will not be sorry, no matter which episode you tune into.
I agree. I haven't listened to all 117, but I've listened to a bunch, and definitely no one will be disappointed. So go listen.
What about
to Did
you?
I love it. I love Did You Bring the Hummus?
Let's see. In terms of The Confident Vegan, I've had so many interviews that I've posted, and I've posted them all up. I have some that I'm working on, but I have a bunch of content on there. I am hoping to do a video to post on Wednesday about some personal health stuff that I'm working on. So we'll see if that's up on Wednesday. And the other thing I just want to give a quick shout out to is the Albany Veg Fest is happening on Sunday, October 5th. I will also include links in the notes below, but if you Google Albany Veg Fest, the information will pop up there. So yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going, but I'm definitely going to try to make it. I went last year. It was a lot of fun. So if you're near the Albany, New York area, definitely recommend checking out the Albany Veg Fest.
Awesome.
Oh, I wish I was there. I want to go to a Veg Fest. I missed that.
If you ever come to this area, let us know. We'll all hang out and eat yummy vegan food together.
That sounds amazing.
Awesome. All right. Well, Marina, thank you again for waking up early and hanging out with us and bringing sunlight to us.
Oh, I can. Okay, here we go. I can stop.
There you go. That works.
Well, you guys are so much fun. So thank you. And cheers. Have a great morning.
Thanks. You as well. Everybody have a great morning, a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.